friends, my name's Alexis and welcome to my August Battle of the Books wrap-up. If you're new here, this is just how I do my wrap-up. I throw them all into a bracket generator and I let them fight it out to determine what my best book of the month was. Last month I finished 19 books. I have not calculated my stats yet, so if I'm not feeling lazy, I'll pop them up on the screen. I read this many pages physically and listened to this many hours of audiobooks. Wow. So many numbers. Great job. Okay, I think that's all of the housekeeping we have to do, so let's get right into the bracket fight. All right, here we go with our first matchup. As always, I'm using the website Bracket Fights. They make it super easy. I just throw the book covers in and they create the template for me. First up on the left, we have The Watchers by A.M. Shine. This one I read for my camping vlog. I will link that below. It was a good time, but it's not a favorite of all time. It's not gonna stick with me forever. I think I would recommend it for like if you're looking for a wilderness camping creature feature type horror, but it's not gonna go on my list of favorite horror books of all time. I ended up giving it a 4-star rating. It was a little slow in the middle. It wasn't really what I was expecting going into it, but at the end, I liked the twist and I liked the ending. And that is up against my classic for the month, The Virgin Suicides by Jeff Eugenides. This one really surprised me. This one's also in a vlog. This was in my full moon readathon vlog, so again, linked below if you missed it. But yeah, this one really surprised me. When I first started it, I didn't like it at all, and I think that's because I didn't know what I was getting into going into it. I didn't know anything about this book besides that it was a modern classic and it was made into a movie. So it was just kind of jarring actually getting into it and learning what it was about and the content matter. But at the end of the day, after watching the movie, reading some analyses online, and really taking the time to think about what the author's message was when writing this, I decided to go with a 4-star rating as well. So we have our first like head-to-head solid matchup. They're both 4 stars. I think I have to go with The Virgin Suicides. It feels like it will stick with me longer, you know? All right, moving on to our next one. I already know this one's gonna be hard. So on the left, we have Vows in Ruins by Helen Schurer, and this is the second book in the Legends of Thesmar series. This series, these characters have my entire heart. I have a new bookish boyfriend from this series, Wilder Hawthorne, and I love it so much. There is the mentor trope that Wilder Hawthorne is teaching her how to fight and use weapons and all this stuff, and I love them so much. This one ended up getting a 4-star from me. I know after I just raved about how much I loved it, it wasn't as good as the first one. The first one is just perfection in my eyes, so maybe it's my fault for having such high standards, but yeah, just love this series so much. We'll definitely be continuing as soon as I possibly can. And that is going up against Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is also part of a series, but in the way that romance series, like you could technically read them out of order, but this is a part of Your World series. I think that's what it's called. And this is the third one. This book just like really did it for me. It really solidified that Abby Jimenez is a new favorite author of all time. I loved this one. This is also in the full moon readathon vlog if you want to see me absolutely like scream my head off about this book. I ended up crying and filming it because why wouldn't I? This one was 5 stars. The romance, the love interest, the humor, Abby Jimenez writes such witty banter and humor between her love interests. It is perfection. So I think we have a clear winner, and that is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Okay, next up we have Open Throat by Henry Hoke. This is a short little weird story, but I absolutely loved it. I listened to it on a road trip with my partner. I think it's like a total of 2 hours, like we sped through this. And it is following a mountain lion that lives under the Hollywood sign and just observes people and ponders their existence and what life means and what humans mean, and it was so good. It was so weird, but it was incredible. Like, this is definitely one, if you like weird books, pick this up. It won't even take you long at all. I really like this one, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. The only reason it wasn't 5 stars is because I wanted more. Like, I would have read a full-length novel following this mountain lion. And that is up against Death Note, the Black Edition, Volume 1, which has both Volume 1 and 2 in it. This one was a reread for me, also part of the Full Moon Readathon vlog. And if you watch that vlog, you know that Death Note is one of my favorite animes of all time, and I really want to go back and actually read the manga. This is the only edition that I have read before. So starting now, all of the manga volumes will be new to me. This one was a fun time. It was really fun to be back with these characters that I know and love. Just Ryuk is so funny, Light is so dramatic, and L is one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. This one is good if you're trying to get into manga. It's very easy to read. It's really good for people who like true crime. It has sort of a detective mystery aspect to it, and yeah, I just think this is a manga slash anime series that I think everybody could love. There is a reason it's so popular. I'm not the first person to rave about it. And this one also got 4 stars for me. So this one's a little difficult again because they are both 4 stars, but I think I have to go with the one that is like newer to me and was more exciting to read for the first time. So of course that'll be Open Throat. Moving on to our next matchup, we have Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This one is also part of a series. I did so good in August. I read so many continuations of series. I'm really trying to finish some before the end of the year. This is the second book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lila Sage, and spoiler alert, I love this book. I love this series. I did not think I could love a book in this series more than Done and Dusted. And then Swift and Saddled came and just took the crown. This book was 5 stars, if you couldn't guess that already. I related to the main character, Ada, so much. And even though I didn't absolutely fall in love with the love interest Wes, like, I still like his character. I loved their love story, and I truly believe that they are soulmates, and there is no better pair than these two. 5 stars, obviously, and that is going up against Britney Spears' memoir, The Woman in Me. I'm really happy I finally got around to reading this. I've had it on my TBR since it came out last year. If you're a fan of Britney Spears at all, I think you should give this one a read. It's really difficult to get through at some parts because obviously she had a very hard, unfair life, as many child stars do, but it's also so inspiring in the end to see her get her life back and to be able to tell her story, and I wish the best for her, and I'm so happy to finally see her happy again. I don't rate memoirs unless they're 5 stars to me, and this one was not. It wasn't bad at all, it just wasn't 5 stars. There were some things that I think could have been edited a little more. It was very short and it jumped around a lot, but if that's how she wanted to tell her story, who am I to critique that? But just for that reason, Swift and Saddled will be our winner for this round. Next up are 2 more books that I also have the vlogs for. I read The Willows in my camping vlog, and this is by Algernon Blackwood. This is a classic horror story. It's very, very short, and it follows a man and his traveling companion, and they end up landing on this island to kind of wait out a hurricane. They just do not know what they're getting themselves into. There are willow trees on this island that have a mind of their own. They kind of come to life. They end up messing with our main character's mind, and it's really just following a descent into madness, and it was a fun time. The beginning was definitely a little hard to get through. It used, like, you know, stereotypical classic language with words that are way too big and hard to understand, but once I get into the story, I could understand what was going on, and by the ending, like, there was a twist that I was not expecting. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. And this is going up against Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. This is also a continuation of a series. This is part of the Ruinous Love trilogy, the second book, and this follows Lark, who is Sloane from the first book's best friend, and Lachlan, who is the love interest from the first book, Rowan, I think was his name, his brother. So if you watch that vlog, you already know my thoughts on this one. I honestly think that you could skip this book. I don't think it was necessary for her to make this into a trilogy. Like, the first book was good, we should have left it at that. I really feel like this is a copy and paste of the first book, but like, change a few things so it's not obvious. I ended up giving it a 3-star rating, so it was fine, but like in my opinion, I don't think I'm going to be picking up the third book right away unless I hear great reviews from it. I honestly should have just listened to all the reviews telling me this one was bad, but I wanted to see for myself, and yeah, can confirm, not great. So for that reason, the Willows will be our winner of this round. Okay, back up to the top, we have The Virgin Suicides versus Just for the Summer. I mean, it's a clear winner. You know how I feel about Just for the Summer. It's a perfect book. It can do no wrong. Okay, Open Throat versus Swift and Saddled. Again, one was a 4-star, one was a 5-star, and while that doesn't always determine the winner, in this case, it's going to. Like, Swift and Saddled has my heart. Which means Just for the Summer versus Swift and Saddled. I need a minute. You're making me pick between my children like this? I think I know the winner, and I really, really don't want to have to pick, but I think it has to be Just for the Summer. Like, the fact that I cried tears of joy at the ending. Not many books make me cry. And then that will go up against The Willows because it had a bye week because there was an uneven number, if that makes sense. So, of course, Just for the Summer. So that means Just for the Summer is going to be a contender for my best book of August, as it should be. Moving on to the right side of the bracket, we have Cursed Bread by Sophie McIntosh. This, again, is a very weird book. I also read this one on the same road trip that I read Open Throat. It was just weird book hour. My favorite, to be honest. I had heard great things about this one. This is a story of obsession. It follows a woman, and she is the baker in town's wife, and she becomes obsessed with this new couple that moves into town. She doesn't know if she wants to be with the wife or if she wants to kill her and wear her skin. That's how real this obsession is. And then we also have a historical aspect to the story because it's based on this real life unexplained event where this entire town in France got poisoned one day. Well, I did really, really enjoy this one. The middle was hard to get through. It was very slow, and maybe that's just because I was reading it on a road trip. I was looking for something a little more exciting. It could be me, but for such a short book, it felt like this thing dragged in the middle. By the time we got to the ending and the reveal and the poisoning, like, I was way more invested, and like, I did not see that twist coming, and I loved it for it. It was so good. I ended up giving this one 3.5-star rating, and that is versus All Systems Red by Martha Wells, another book I read on this road trip. This one is actually my second time attempting to read this book. I tried to read this a few years ago and ended up DNFing at like 30% because I was so confused, and I made it through this time, but at what cost? I did not understand anything that was happening. This is a super well-known, well-loved series about this robot, specifically a murder bot. They are made to kill, and they live on this spaceship, I think, and all they want to do is watch TV. They really don't have interest in killing and being used as a weapon. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just too action heavy for me. There were a lot of like battle scenes, which are not my favorite. So in the end, I decided to give this one 2 stars, and I will not be continuing with the series, which means Cursed Bread will be our winner. Okay, don't judge me too fast. Yes, I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover this month. Had to read it before going to see the movie. I try not to judge Colleen Hoover books too harshly because they're not the best literature ever written. We know this. I really compare them to like McDonald's. They are so good and like fast to get through, but not good for you. This one was fun. I read it in under 24 hours. I feel like most people know what this one is about. It's about a woman who finds herself in an abusive relationship and just kind of her battle with what to do. And it also tells the story of her childhood love. I did really like the ending of this one. It ended different than what I thought, just knowing how Colleen Hoover books usually end, and I was really happy with that, just to see the growth of this character and everything she went through and how she comes out at the end. So I ended up giving this one a 4-star rating. I know, it was just for my enjoyment of it. I'm not recommending it as the best book ever written, but it was a fun time and easy to fly through. and that is going up against Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey, another one that I read for the Full Moon Readathon. Unfortunately, because this cover is stunning, this is like in my top 5 favorite covers of all time, but I did not like this book. It was so rough to get through. Like I kept wanting it to get better. I kept waiting for it to get better, and it never did. And by the time the twist at the end came, I was so mad at this book. Like really, you put us through all that just for this dumb twist. So do not recommend. I hate this book. I ended up giving this one a 2.5 star. There was like a few good moments, but overall, just like the ending really ruined it for me. I was so mad. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but Colleen Hoover is gonna win this round. 2 more books that I read for the Full Moon Readathon. That is just the perfect readathon. If you wanna get through a lot of books, you have to do this readathon next year. I love it for that reason. First up, I read The Girl in Red by Christina Henry. This is my second Christina Henry, I think. I really enjoy her writing. I really enjoy her horror. She reminds me a lot of like Rachel Harrison. She writes very cozy horror. It's a little more gruesome than Harrison's books, but if you're looking for horror that is more on the cozy side than the horrific, I recommend her a lot. This is, of course, a Little Red Riding Hood retelling set in our world, except it's after a pandemic has happened and civilization has crumbled, and now everybody is just doing their best to survive. Our main character is trying to make it to her grandmother's house because the rest of her family is gone. And I really enjoyed it. It had a cool sci-fi element that came in halfway through that I was not expecting. I will definitely be picking up more Christina Henry in the future. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Versus The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This was like my most anticipated book of the year, and maybe it's on me for having such high expectations, but I was a little disappointed in it. And that's not to say it was bad. I still gave it 4 stars. I still really, really enjoyed it. I will still be picking up more Monica Kim when she comes out with her next book. But yeah, it was just really, really hyped up and compared a lot to Mayfly, which was one of my favorite books of last year. So I thought this was going to be my new personality, my new favorite book of all time. And it just wasn't. It wasn't bad. It was very good. I enjoyed it a lot. It was so gross. It was so gory. It was a supporting women's wrong type of book. Disappointed it wasn't my new favorite of all time, but it was still very good. This is difficult because this is another 4-star versus 4-star. I think I'm gonna go with The Eyes Are the Best Part. Just like thinking about what book has stuck with me more, have I thought about more? I think it's The Eyes Are the Best Part. There were some gruesome scenes in this book that I don't know if I'll ever forget. Next up, I'm so happy I get to tell you about Funny Story by Emily Henry. I know I'm the millionth person to scream online about how good Emily Henry books are, but if you haven't listened at this point, what are you doing? Go read them. Emily Henry is like top 3 favorite authors of all time. I've never actually like made a list of my favorite authors. I know I say a lot of authors are on this list, but I mean it with Emily Henry. I have not just liked a single book of hers. She just knows how to write a book. She knows how to get you. She knows how to write relatable characters. This book, this love interest, this main character, everything about it. I love this book. I love this book so much. I love this book. Go read this book. It's gonna be in my top favorites of the year. It's so good. It's so good. Obviously, this one is a 5-star. I think this is going down as my second favorite of hers. I would have to do like a real ranking of them to decide. Beach Read is always gonna be my favorite, and then Happy Place, I love that one so much. And Book Lovers, I can't decide. They're all top tier. They're all incredible. But I think that's enough that you get it. Incredible. Go read it if you haven't. And that is up against How Far the Light Reaches, A Life in 10 Sea Creatures by Sabrina Imbler. This one's also incredible. This one was another memoir that I read. It had some scientific facts and information mixed into the story. Like I said, I don't rate memoirs unless they're 5 stars, and this one was absolutely 5 stars. I love this book so much. This is definitely one of my favorite memoirs I've ever read. This one reminded me a lot of World of Wonders that I read last month, a few months ago. It had the same kind of layout, that this author was retelling parts of their life, but adding in sea creatures to kind of help them understand it, tell their story. As an animal lover, these books are just so fun to me, and I learned a few fun facts about these 10 sea creatures. I'm really sad that this one isn't getting picked, and that's only because it went up against Funny Story. Like, if it had gone up against almost any other book, this one would be the winner, but like, there's no competition with Funny Story. All right, back up to the top, we have Cursed Bread versus It Ends With Us. Now, I know Cursed Bread was a lower rating, but honestly, the story that will stick with me longer is gonna be Cursed Bread. As much as the middle of Cursed Bread was a little slow, I might not have enjoyed it as much as the middle of It Ends With Us, if that makes sense. Like, I flew through It Ends With Us, but at the end of the day, the story of Cursed Bread, like, it's in my head. So Cursed Bread is gonna be our winner for this round. Clear winner, nothing's gonna beat Funny Story. Again, obvious, Funny Story. And then that brings us down to our bye-week book because there was the odd number, you know the deal. So This Wretched Valley by Jenny Kiefer, I read this one again for my camping vlog. It was fine. I ended up going with a 3.5-star rating for this. Not a favorite of all time, but definitely not the worst horror book I've ever read. It was just kind of forgettable. It's about a group of friends that go mountain climbing and they start to disappear, bad things start happening, some supernatural force is messing with them. It was definitely a fun, gory time. If you like gore in your horror books, this is a good one for you. It was very descriptive, very disgusting, but it's obviously no competition to Funny Story. All right, so as we knew it was going to happen, we have Just for the Summer versus Funny Story. I have had time to think about this because I was anticipating it happening. I think you know who I have to go with. Emily Henry does something to me. She's not physically capable of writing a book that I don't love. So there we have it. Funny Story is my best book of August. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's always so fun to play this little game with you. Please let me know what your favorite book of August was. And as always, I hope you read a good book today, and I will see you soon in my next one. Bye.